I think most people know what Generation Z is, but I'm going to give a brief overview for those who do not. So Generation Z is a show on Cable 14, a business-related talk show where I interview young startups about the companies they've began, the process, the challenges, lessons you've learned. And then we also talk to business experts who can give different tips and strategies on how to successfully start and grow a company. And that led to the podcast and blog, which is online on our website. And then we also have these monthly networking events that we've been running for, I guess, 16 months now. So basically the whole idea of these events are for young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all ages to network together, to discover different resources to help you start your company and grow it, and then also to have keynote speakers like Sean here tonight to share their business journey and inspire young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. So thank you all for coming. We're going to get started here with Sean.
Sounds good.
Before, I'm just going to read his biography so you understand why he's here and what he's all about.
Cool.
So Sean has a background in sculpture, performance dance, and product photography. After completing high school, he joined the National Dance Company of Ireland and traveled all over North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Upon returning to Canada, Sean attended OCAD-U, where he received a BFA in sculpture and installation art. Sean is now the founder and creative director of Art Aggregate in Hamilton, where he fabricates custom pieces for businesses and events, while also teaching a variety of workshops on everything from woodworking to mold making to photography. Sean also runs an adult Irish dance class out of a studio in Oakville and holds a seat on the Hamilton Visual Arts Committee. Sean's goal is to help other creatives to transition their passions into full-time careers and encourage a collaborative workflow. So thank you, Sean, for coming with us today and sharing your business journey here at this event. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. So today I just kind of want to talk about you, your business journey, and different advice and pieces of advice that you could give to aspiring entrepreneurs here and current entrepreneurs who are growing their company. So why don't you just start off by telling us about what Art Aggregate is?
Art Aggregate's a co-working space, so kind of in essence similar to where we are right now. I don't have any employees currently, so everybody that works out of the space is either their own business or they're associated with a business that's typically deals in the creative end of things. So we have painters, we have photographers, we have graphic designers, woodworkers, a DJ at one point in time. We've had somebody in there growing microgreens for restaurants. So people that are physically making things, producing things, content creators. And the whole idea of Art Aggregate is to bring these people together so that they have the opportunity to collaborate on larger projects or maybe take on work that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do themselves because they don't have enough of a variety of skills. So they can kind of tap into other people that maybe know a little bit more in this area or that area and use that to their advantage. And that's essentially what we do.
That's great. And what inspired you to start this company?
What inspired me was when I was at OCAD, I had access to tools and equipment and space and other people to talk to and professors that knew all kinds of things. And then, as is the issue with most university programs, it's like, here's all this stuff and you learn so much and then you graduate and you're out on your ass. And it was just a loss of all of that equipment and space and tools, and you don't think about how much you actually miss just working beside other people, or like the feedback that you get off of other people, like the critiquing of like, oh, what are you doing there? And just having a conversation with somebody else about your work kind of improves you just through osmosis, basically. So the inspiration there was I was by myself. I was working out of my parents' garage and basement. Your neighbors don't like it when you run table saws at midnight. They really don't.
Not.
No, and I mean I was working full time at the time, so the only time I had to work was at night. And then it was just getting to the point where like it wasn't sustainable for me to keep working by myself. One, it was just not a motivating thing to do, and two, it wasn't a very productive way to work. Yeah.
And I think what's great about what you're doing is that it allows the creative entrepreneurs and artists to have people that network with them and can support them and encourage them and inspire them. It's just, a space of inspiration and helping each other. Do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly, our goal is to kind of break down the barriers that are associated with trying to run your own business, right? So you have an issue of like, okay, I have commercial rent and you're trying to get mail delivery and you're trying to set up meetings with clients, and I hate meeting people at Starbucks, right? Like it's this matter of like, I want to have an office that I can bring people to, and it's helping other startups so that they don't have to like invite people to their house or try and figure out a way to like make themselves look bigger than they actually are, because it's a business, it's not just you. So it's helping people kind of expand their reach and kind of have a larger presence in like a business world.
And you were saying before that your current business was an idea that you were dwelling upon a lot during university. So what kind of was that motivating moment that you just knew you needed to start this company?
It was inevitably knowing that this end is coming, right? You can't stay in school forever. So I think with any business really, like, if you're a cook, you have access to this full kitchen and stuff at school, but at the end of that, like, you're going to have to either work at a restaurant or open a restaurant. Or if you're somebody, a doctor, a dentist, this kind of thing, like, you have access to these trial patients and knowledge, but then when, like, you're going to eventually hit that end, and you're either going to have to go work for somebody else or you're going to have to open your own thing. And I knew that kind of while I was at university. I returned as a mature student, if you will, and knowing, I'm gathering all of this information, and it's great, and I'm learning so much, but at the end of this, what's going to happen? And I didn't want to work for somebody else.
And that's a common thought I think a lot of people have, whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or you're not an entrepreneur. People always think, is this going to support my future?
Right.
Or the ideas that I have for my future? So what advice would you give to those people that are dwelling on an idea that they've had for a while, or it has just come to them?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them?
I would say just jump in. That's kind of the biggest point, is that you can dwell on it all you want, but until you, like, what's that Gretzky phrase? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Mm-hmm. And I was in a position, thankfully, where, I was living at home with my parents, and I had a little bit of savings from working and this kind of thing. And what's the worst that can really happen? Like, if it doesn't work, it's not like I'm going to be homeless. It's not like I'm not going to be able to feed myself. So it's a lot easier right now. Like, I don't have kids. I had a roof over my head. Like, it was just that jump in, take that risk. If it works, amazing. If it doesn't work, you still have time to, rebuild your credit, get a different job. There was room for me to pivot, which I think is the biggest thing, is that if you have the opportunity to just take that risk and jump, like, just do it, because really, how bad can it be?
Exactly. And how's the journey been so far? Do you want to take us to the very beginning and bring us to where you are now?
Sure. I mean, it's been a journey. I mean, there's ups and downs. It's a little bit of a roller coaster from time to time, especially when you're running your own thing. Thankfully, I don't have any employees, so like at the beginning, I didn't have to like worry about feeding somebody else. It could just be like, if this doesn't work, it's only hurting me. Yeah. And I had a great support system. My fiance and brother are both here. They're doing some tech stuff for me right now. But my family was being like super supportive the whole time, and knew what I was getting into. And then it's a lot of work. We renovated the whole space. I was working full-time bartending. I was teaching my class once a week in Oakville. I was trying to maintain a relationship with my fiance because I didn't want her to leave me. So you have all of these commitments, and you have to just kind of buckle down and understand like where your draws are going to be. And I'm a busy person. I don't really sleep that much anyways. So it was kind of like you're spreading yourself thin, and you have to really understand how thin that can be before you start to like screw things up. And then it was just a build from there. So I started taking on a couple of like larger projects. I think the main thing with any business is that like you have to build a trust with potential clients, right? It's hard to walk in and be like, I've been open for 2 days and you should totally shop with me. Like that's tough to do. Is you have to have a presence, if you have family and friends and people that would be willing to take a risk on you, definitely pull on those like connections, because you need to start building a portfolio, but you don't necessarily want to be doing work for exposure, which I think is an issue with a lot of creative ends, is that people want you to do stuff for free to like build a portfolio, and you wouldn't ask your banker to come do your accounting for free because they're trying to prove themselves to you. Like, that's not a real thing. So you have to understand that you are a business. You need to treat everything like a transaction, and you have to come to stuff like this, meet other people, put yourself out there. So that you can build those connections, build that trustworthiness, build that Instagram profile so that people, when they look you up, it's not 6 posts, right? You have to have that traction and prove to people that you can get that job done.
And you touched upon something that every single entrepreneur, even people that aren't entrepreneurs, experience on a daily basis, and that's being busy.
Yes.
And burning out. And I'm sure that's something you went through at the very beginning. You said you were bartending at the same time as starting a company. What was that like?
Difficult. It's hard to, especially in like a bartending world, to work till 2 o'clock in the morning and then get up and try and have 8 a.m. meetings.
You'd be exhausted.
You're exhausted because it's not like you just come home from work and go to sleep. Like you come from work, you have a beer, you watch TV. You're still trying to have like some level of like family life and have friends. So you can't just have that instant unwind time. You still have to have space for yourself. So what I did actually is a friend of mine came and painted a mural inside my front door. So as soon as you walk into the business, it says "Quit your day job" in gigantic letters, right as soon as you walk into the building. Because every day I opened the business in April and I actually quit my full-time job in September. So for that whole time, every day I walked into the building, I was just hit with this like, quit your job, quit your job, quit your job. Because it was the biggest draw. As much as I wanted to keep it because it was nice making money, the other part is like, I'm not giving enough focus to the business because I have to spend this time doing work for somebody else. And it was just a matter of, am I gonna, if I lose that job, am I gonna be able to recover enough revenue? Or like, if I put those extra hours into what I'm trying to build, will it recover what I'm losing by quitting that job? And I found, why work 40 hours for somebody else when you can work 90 hours for yourself?
Yeah.
That's, just like put the work in, and hopefully it's gonna pay off. Yeah.
And I find when, as you said, you are exhausted, just completely exhausted, that can really affect you. It could affect you mentally, physically, your health, your relationships with others. Did you find that it was starting to affect you, like physically?
Oh, definitely. Like, thankfully, it wasn't affecting me a whole lot physically. Like, I was already not a good sleeper and that kind of thing when I was in university. I think I'm at this kind of like peak stress all the time, to the point that you just kind of like it numbs. But there was definitely, you start to snap on people that you shouldn't necessarily, and obviously you can't snap on clients or people that you're trying to build something with, so you snap on the people closest to you because, they love me enough that they're not gonna leave if I yell at them, right? So I think you definitely have to be aware of like where your stressors are and how you're venting that stress. Some people read, some people play video games, people go to the gym, go for a run, meditate, do yoga, whatever it is that you do. I found what was the most helpful is I actually just started seeing somebody. I just went to go to a counselor. I was doing it prior to me having a business, like when I was in school and stuff too, because the same thing is there's this stigma that if you're going to like see somebody to talk about your feelings, that you're crazy. And I think that that's absolutely not true. And there should be, you should be encouraged, like this is somebody that's getting paid to listen to me regardless of what I want to say to them. So if I want to go in there and just like come in swinging and yelling and be upset about something, like their job is to sit there and let me do that.
Did you find the counseling really helped?
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's nice to do, even if I just wanted to like have a conversation about a movie that I had just seen, or like, how traffic sucks in Hamilton right now because they're doing construction in my neighborhood or whatever. Like, you could just vent those little stressors without frustrating your friends and family. And right, like I wasn't damaging other relationships with just like stuff that shouldn't be bothering me. I could just dump that on somebody whose job it was to have it dumped on them. So I found that was like super. I would recommend, like, if anybody's like at that point with their business, you should definitely just find yourself one. A lot of times, especially if you're a student still, it's subsidized. Like you can just go and get that done fairly cheap, if not free. Yeah,
exactly. And it's great as well, as you said, the counseling helped you. Maybe counseling isn't for everyone though.
Oh, absolutely not, no.
What other ways did you find you would go, what other things did you do to help you balance your personal life and your business life?
I think it was nice that a lot of the people that like my family and stuff, were involved in some way in the business, whether they were just like helping me, do some renovations, helping me with paperwork, being my editors when I would like write an email, just to have somebody to just like double check my work, keeping me on task, without them being like somebody involved with the business, without them being an employee. Like you could have a conversation with them and they could give you an honest response of like, you know what, I'm too busy, I can't help you today. And that's totally fair, but it's just having that support system in place that you could actually just have these conversations, be honest with people. If this is what you want to do, you have to understand that it's a baby, it's a child. Like this thing is gonna take so much of your time, and you're gonna be there from sunrise to sundown, like every day. If you think you're taking a vacation in the first year of you running a business, like you're nuts. That's just not how these things work. Yeah.
And I always find too, as startups, people who have just started their company,
Yeah.
it's easy for us to just want to say yes to every single thing. And we have a family, we have friends, we have our personal life, we need to focus on our health. We may still be students, we have schoolwork, we also have sports and extracurricular activities we're involved in. The list goes on. We're busy people. So what advice do you have for us on learning when to say yes and when to say no?
So what I used to say a lot when I was bartending, I worked for a fine dining place and we were almost exclusively reservations. So we were super busy with reservations and people would walk in and that kind of thing. You have to deal with turning people away. And the thing that I always used to say is that we're not in the business of saying yes, we're in the business of very politely saying no. And I found that with my business, like you have this pressure to make money and to be successful, whatever that is in your industry. So you're taking on projects that, you know, you're shooting yourself in the foot sometimes, like, oh, I really need that money so I can make rent. But it's a project that 6 months from now is something that you didn't want to be associated with, or like you're dealing with people where you're like, this person's going to be a problem. Like, trust your gut. I'm not going to name any names, but like an example of what I've had is a few months ago, I was doing stuff for weddings, and I had 2 ladies that had the same name, which oddly enough, and they wanted a similar product for their weddings, and one of them had a huge budget and had absolutely nothing to do with it. She just was like, this is what I would like to have, whatever you think is the thing that I should have, like that's what we'll go with. And it turned out great, and she was a dream to work with. And the other one wanted like everything on a shoestring budget, was down my, like, breathing down my neck the whole time, revision after revision after revision. And then after she got the product, like wrote up a complaint about me online. And it was just like, for the money that I made on that, it wasn't worth even the negative review, let alone having to deal with her for the whole time. So you have to kind of meet people, and like, as you do this more and more and more, like as you deal with more clients or as you collaborate with more people, you start to learn just like instantly, like, we're not gonna get along. Or the opposite of that, of like, we're gonna get along great, I wanna do as much work with you as I possibly can. So you have to kind of figure out who those people are, what kind of projects those are. And I mean, in my industry, like taking on event contracts where you're pitching like huge ideas, massive budgets, and then trying to figure out like how you're gonna get that done. So you have to build relationships with like outside contractors, because I'm taking on jobs that like personally I could not do as one person. So you have to know like who you can rely on when you make that phone call of like, can we get this done? That the person that you're calling can help you get that done.
And how do you figure that out though? Should we?
You're gonna fall down a lot.
Like, what do you do? It's hard to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the main thing is just to like to meet people, to talk a lot, to have conversations about the project at hand. But the other part is like, you are gonna fail, right? There is stuff that you're gonna do, and then immediately after you do it, you're like, I should not have touched that project, right? And that's just comes with the territory of learning and starting a business, is that especially if you're in like an oddball industry like I am, there's not a lot of examples. It's not like I can just like hop on YouTube and be like, how to deal with somebody who's talking to me like this, right? Like there's not a guidebook for that. So you kind of just have to like fall down, get up, brush yourself off, get your little notebook out and be like, you know, in example A, do not do this. And then just hope that the next time that you recognize it before it actually happens to you. Yeah.
And we're talking about like how entrepreneurs should know when to say yes and when to say no. When we say no, what's your advice on saying it politely? It's hard to say no.
It's really
who are always nagging at you.
Exactly.
Right?
It's really hard to say no. The fallback one is just to like say you're too busy, right? I mean, depending on the industry that you're in, you can always blame your schedule. Summertime right now, August, oh, you know, I'm on vacation and then this, right? Like, I just can't fit that project in, like, I'm so sorry. A lot of times, I mean, not that you want to like hand anybody else a grenade, but you can redirect, like, just because it's something that I can't do for you, I can give you the name of like 5 other places that would maybe touch this, right? Like, oh, I know a guy that does that, you can call this, oh, this company's really good at doing this kind of thing, maybe they have time for you, and you can redirect, and for all you know that their personality is gonna jive better with that company or that person, you know, not that I'm trying to like sabotage somebody else, but sometimes it is just a matter of like, we're not gonna get along, but maybe this person can help you.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to finish off, and we always finish off with 3 different statements.
Okay.
To complete the sentence.
Yeah.
So the first one is, entrepreneurship is?
Entrepreneurship is bringing an idea to life. It's having an idea, or it's having a concept that you haven't really seen realized to a level that you would like to see it realized. Oh, there is businesses doing this, but I really wish they did them like this. And it's filling that niche or filling that need or filling that hole, or in some cases just fabricating that entire position, right? You look at things that have been really successful, Uber, Airbnb, all these kind of companies where they found a hole in a market and they filled it better than anybody else has ever filled it, and now they're super successful. So I'm not saying that everybody here is just going to come up with that thing and skyrocket to the top, but you have to look at what you're interested in and then find what's missing in that interest and fill that need.
And success means?
Success means just being happy with what you're doing at the end of the day. I'm not saying I'm not here to make money, right? I'm here to make enough money to feed myself and live comfortably. But the goal was never to get in and get rich and get out. That was never the plan. It's never why I wanted to work with myself. It was just I want to get up and go to work and do something that I enjoy doing. And if I have to spend a few extra hours that day doing it, it's because I want to, not because I have to. And it's a level of that's kind of the nice part about working for yourself is that, I have this thing on the weekend that I want to do, so I can just do all of it today and free up some time for later. Or the reverse of that is I know the deadline for this project is 3 weeks away, so I could either bang it out today and be done with it, or if I want to, I could stretch it out over that whole 3 weeks and just have a leisurely time doing that project. And it kind of, whatever suits you is kind of what the nice part of working for yourself is you can make it work for you.
Mm-hmm. The lesson that took you the longest to learn is?
That was definitely the yes and no thing. I mean, I still have times now where I'm halfway through a project and you're just I did not do this correctly. Yeah. Whether it is that you didn't charge enough, or it's not something, again, it's not on brand for you. I don't know if that makes sense to other people, but it's it's something that I can do, but do I want to do it? Right? It's yes, I can totally build that thing for you, but is it something that I want to have my name attached to later on? Or is it something that I'm proud of, I think, is the biggest thing, is that especially in the creative end, just because that's what I can speak to the most, is that if it's not something that at the end of it you're proud of, you probably shouldn't have done it. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Well, thank you so much
for
taking the time to come today.
Of course.
And talk about your business journey and share all of that advice for us. It was really helpful for me, and I hope it was helpful for all of you too. So why don't we give him a round of applause?
Thank you. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I just want to open it up to Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for Sean?
Opening up about counseling, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
No.
Some people go through struggles and they just keep banging their head against the wall, and at least you addressed it. You knew you needed that type of guidance, and you shared that. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think others do too.
I think it's an important
It's not
note.
a taboo.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of life.
You're not a monster. Everybody has struggles. Just
That's
get
right.
through it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Good for you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, for example, doing jobs for free for someone to sort of build up a profile.
Right.
But I was wondering, as a young entrepreneur starting out, sometimes you're not taken as seriously in certain industries. How do you build that credibility without maybe building a portfolio for free at first?
I would look at not necessarily, again, the free is where it stops being a business and starts being a favor. So there's a level of if you're doing work for friends or family, let them know what you would charge and then charge them less than that. A discount is not doing it for free, right? So giving somebody a friends and family discount or doing odd job type stuff for them is still building your portfolio. They're gonna talk highly of you because you gave them up, they know what oh, look at the deal I got on this, right? That's a great way to start building a portfolio without having to do things for free. Or if you are gonna be doing things for free, do it in a way that it is a sponsored thing. So if you can get involved with events or not-for-profits or charity walks, this kind of thing, if you can be doing what you do for free for them, where they're actually gonna mention you as a sponsor, that's almost as good as getting paid for it, depending on what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Any other questions?
You can say no.
That yes and no thing has been a really big thing for me, especially in probably the last month and a half or so. I also had a client who I didn't feel 100% on when I was shaking that hand
Right.
on the deal. I did half the work, I got half the payment, I finished the work, and that's where it stopped.
Right.
And like you have that gut thing, you're just like, and all the work I was doing, I was proud of and I was enjoying doing it, but it was still that I know that
I'm getting gypped here somewhere, yeah.
like there's something
Yeah.
fishy. So it's been a joint of both looking at the person or the project and being able to be like, do I want to based on what it is or who you are?
Yeah.
Both. Like there's been some clients who I will always do work for continually
Because you know what you're getting, exactly.
a great person to work with.
Yeah.
It's that those first ones that you're just like, do I want to say yes to this because I need to feed myself, or do I want to say yes to this because I know them, I know what they're doing.
Are you genuinely interested in the project is the other part of it, yeah. And to be honest, like I'm ruthless. I will Google you, I will Facebook you, I will find you on Instagram, I will go through your Yelp reviews. Like if you're somebody that leaves like 1 star, like, oh, you know what? I went there, the soup was like 1 degree too cold, 1 star, like I am not gonna work with you. And that's the beauty kind of now from a business perspective is that as much as people can look up your business, you can look up that person. Do your research. Yeah.
Like the first thing you
Yeah.
Google this guy's name is like, oh.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, that's never good.
Right.
One other comment that I could add in terms of the yes and no thing is, yes, you can say I'm busy, but one thing that I've done is if I think I can do it, but I just kind of don't want to do it, I just say that's not within my expertise.
Right.
That's a good
Right?
point.
Like this is my expertise, this is kind of beyond my expertise, but here are 3 lawyers. You do that.
Right. I could do it, but this guy will do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll call them, right?
Yeah.
But again, maybe it's not within your expertise, and therefore you say it's not within my expertise. But okay, so I guess I have a question for you, and maybe you've already answered it. But if it is within your expertise, and you do have the time, and you don't want to do it based on the gut feeling you have with a potential client, like the excuse would be I'm too busy, I'm on vacation, or it could like.
Sometimes depending on, I mean, it's tough depending on what your industry is, if you have like a set rate for what you do or whatever. In my job where I'm quoting a job, if it's something that I really don't want to do, just
Nice high quote.
super high quote, and then if you say yes, then like I guess we're in here now. But but most of the time, yeah, I mean, and depending on what the project is, like maybe it is worth making that extra buck to deal with the headache. But in most cases, they just say no. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, it's been the hardest one for me is in a creative world as well is pricing myself.
Yeah.
Like my value, because it is incredibly hard because you want to make that sale. At the same time, you want your time to be valued as you see it.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult, and I have lost sales because people don't realize how expensive services of whatever your business may be.
Yep.
And that's something that I'm still working with and saying, you know, like I usually would do this for this. Like when you mentioned the friends and family discount, I think I was like, I just literally did that this week.
Right.
Yeah.
But they still paid for it at some level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. As long as you're not doing it for free. This is the yeah.
No free.
Yeah. But I think there's a point there that, how do I word this? Like, yeah, you have to understand what your time's worth. Honesty with people is obviously the best route. Like, just be upfront. This is the cost. This is why it's the cost, right? Material cost, time, delivery, research, development, whatever it is that the cost is the cost. And if they're cool with that, obviously they'll go ahead with it. And if they're not cool with it, at least they know the price up front, and you're not getting left holding the bag after making something that now you can't do anything with. So yeah, I mean, it can be tough. Like, exactly. I've lost jobs too, where it's just like, they're like, okay, how much for this? I'm like, this is the price. They're like, whoa, like that's not my budget. I'm like, did you even research the thing that you want? Like, nobody sells it in that budget, right? So, I mean, especially when you're asking for custom stuff, it's a whole crazy world. I don't, like, people, if you want it, go to IKEA. Like, you just have to be honest with people and just let them know, like, I would do this for you, but you actually can't afford me. And as cocky as that sounds, I mean, I got to feed myself too. I got to keep my lights on. So you wouldn't just like go into a bank and be like, that interest rate is not going to work for me. I need you to like drop that a little bit. Like they're not going to do that for you. So, yeah.
The line I have used too is, well, it's not so much a line, but I would say, you know what, I'd really love to help you, but
Right.
you know what, it seems like this is, you know, it's really time consuming and my schedule's pretty full, or, but if it's something I'm really interested in, then I'm, you know, I might find a way to fit it in, but if I think, oh, that's gonna be really messy, then I say,
Yeah.
you know, I'd love to help you, but.
Well, I think that's on what I was saying too. Yeah.
I'd love to help you.
Is that if it's something that I really want to do, I will fit it in. I will stay those extra hours to do it because like that's something I want to do.
I'm a little off, I'd say, but you know what, I do know somebody else
Yeah.
that blah, blah, blah. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Ooh, 2 at a time, or no? You
Yeah.
can go. Oh, okay.
So I was gonna say also on the point of doing stuff for free, but not for like not doing stuff for free, not for exposure. If you were ever going to do a project for free, maybe do something for yourself that you can then use for your portfolio.
Yeah.
So like make something for yourself or do something for yourself.
Yeah.
At the end, you get to keep the things for yourself, and then you can add anything cheaper.
But like, don't purposely get yourself in trouble and then lawyer yourself. Like, don't. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's specific industries that works for. But yeah, I think that is a good point. Is that you can inflate yourself a little bit. Is that you can build an online presence. You can make videos. You can do photos. You can do this kind of thing. You can do it with your friends, like not even necessarily for them. I dulled in something. Are you makeup or clothing or what's the? Dresses, yeah. So I mean, if you're producing clothes for yourself and just taking photos and putting them online, or like maybe sizing up a friend of yours and doing it, especially if they're a different size than you, I mean, it's not for them, but it's helping build your brand. Yeah.
Yeah, just touching on that, I find collaboration with people is huge. Like these kind of events are absolutely phenomenal, and you should attend every single one possible.
Yeah.
Because you never know who you're going to meet, right? Like, there's always some kind of connection that someone knows, someone who would be ideal, who actually has like a clothing store downtown Hamilton or something, right? And just expanding your like your connections and like your base of people is the best way to kind of go about it sometimes.
I met these guys here, the Visual After Visual guys, last month, and they came for a walkthrough of my shop. We literally just did like a walk and talk tour. They had a camera rolling while we did it. And then now just the little cut together teaser of our walkthrough is the best video on my Instagram feed. So like you never know who you're gonna bump into and how those like ideas are gonna mesh together. And you just, again, you have to just be open. Like that's a situation where like we met and I was like, I could definitely work with these guys a lot. So you just, again, be open, understand what your gut's telling you, understand like what your goals are and what that person's goals are and how you can both get there in a mutually beneficial way without either of you feeling that you're being used or, you know, again, it's that whole just like, if it's not good for you, don't do it.
Any other questions? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, all right. Well, thank you again, Sean. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank as well Leon and Clay from Visual After Visual. We're really grateful to have you here to record the event and also the audio recording. This will be turned into a podcast and hopefully published by the end of this week. So Generation Z Hamilton is the website you'll be able to find it on, and we'll also be pushing it out onto social media. And the next month's event will be the second week of September, Wednesday, 7 to 9 p.m., the regular time. So hopefully we'll see you next month, and I wish you all the best with this coming month. So thank you for coming.
Great. Thank you, Lily. Thank you.
Thank you.